Whether you're wanting to ask your boss for a meeting or you're requesting help from a coworker, it can be awkward and uncomfortable to ask for someone else's time, especially when you know everyone's busy or feeling overwhelmed. So, how exactly can you ask for someone else's time in English in a polite way that leads to a yes so that you get the meeting or the help that you want and avoids contributing to any extra stress or overwhelm? If you don't already know, I'm Anne-Marie with Speak Confident English. Everything I do here is designed to help you get the confidence you want for your life and work in English. In this Confident English lesson today, you'll get 4 simple steps to help you navigate how and when to ask for someone else's time. Along the way, you'll also get clear examples that you can follow with 4 common scenarios and the phrases you need, whether you're asking for a meeting with your boss, requesting help from a coworker, or you want to make a cold call. What that means is by the end of today's lesson, you'll have all the language you need to confidently ask for someone else's time using polite, professional phrases without fear, without stress, and without anxiety. Let's start with 4 quick planning tips for you to follow when you're preparing to ask for someone else's time. Number 1, make sure that you prioritize. Before you approach the other person, determine whether the reason for your request is a priority. In other words, is it urgent or can it wait? Just like you might be trying to beat the clock, your coworker or your boss might be trying to do the very same thing with different tasks. Determining the level of priority for your request will help you as you prepare to make the ask. Step number 2 for helping you choose the right words when you're asking for someone else's time is to find out what their communication style is. For example, when they're setting a date, do they prefer to get those requests by email, text, telephone, or in person? Knowing someone else's communication style can help you ensure that your request is heard and responded to in a timely manner. You've probably heard the expression, time is money. And as you know, in a professional setting, that is absolutely true. And this idea translates into others' styles of communication. Some people may prefer to have all the details up front in an email. Others might prefer brevity. They just want something quick, clear, and concise. The more you understand about someone else's communication style, the easier it will be for you to adjust your request, and it will help you lead to a yes. And now, step number 3 when you're requesting someone else's time is to follow the 3 golden rules. Now that you've determined the priority and you've adjusted your communication style for your request, here are 3 very simple golden rules to follow. In your request, be polite, preface with a reason, and request a specific action. If you follow those 3 steps, your request will be simple and clear. And finally, step number 4, be open to finding alternatives. One of the reasons we feel uncomfortable and awkward asking for someone else's time is we worry that they might say no. They just don't have time for us, and that might be frustrating because we really need their input or help. Before you make that request, it's really important to know that yes, your request may be denied for reasons that are totally unrelated to you, and it's important to be open to alternatives. To avoid awkwardness, when you're making your request with those 3 golden rules, at the end, you can open the door to alternatives. And here are a few great phrases to use in English to do that. Number 1, if the proposed time doesn't work, please let me know and we'll find a more convenient time. Number 2, if noon doesn't work, let me know a time frame that works for you. If this week is busy for you, I'm open to scheduling a meeting next week. And number 4, if Friday's not convenient, let's find another time that works for both of us. All 4 of those phrases are commonly used when we're opening the door to alternatives. They're perfectly polite and professional. Now that we have those 4 steps to help you in preparing to make your request, let's look at a few very common scenarios and how you could put all of this together. In scenario number 1, requesting a meeting with your boss. As you know, there are times at work when you need a more in-depth discussion with your boss, whether it's about an upcoming deadline or getting more details on a project. Before you make the request, follow the steps that we've talked about and consider the level of formality that you want to use. Again, think about your boss's preferred communication style. Does he or she typically communicate in a more formal or casual way? Taking that information into account will help you phrase your request. Here's a great example to use. I've been working toward meeting my deadlines, but I need more clarity on which tasks to prioritize. Are you available for a 20-minute meeting on Monday at 1:30? In that example, not only have I followed the 3 golden rules of being polite, prefacing with a reason, and requesting an action, but I've also prioritized specificity. My request includes a specific date and time, as well as the topic that I want to discuss. Since your boss is busy, they will definitely appreciate a concise, clear request. And now scenario number 2, when you need to request a meeting with a client. With any client, communicating with professionalism and brevity will help you avoid miscommunication. In this scenario, we can follow the rules that we've discussed and add extra details for clarity on why we're making this request. For this scenario, I have 2 examples for you. One is more formal, the other more casual. With clients, again, we want to adjust our language for the individual and the situation. Let's start with the formal example. We're making great progress on this project, and I'd like to discuss a few options before we proceed further. When would be the most convenient day and time to schedule a 30-minute meeting for this? And now option 2, which is a bit more casual. The project is coming along together well, and there are quite a few options to explore. Would you be free to discuss the options over lunch on Friday? In both of those requests, I provided a brief update on the project and a reason before making the request for someone else's time. And you may have also noticed that I used the modal would to make the request more polite. And now let's move on to scenario number 3, when you want to request your coworker's time, whether for a meeting or for help. Of course, we want to continue following our 3 golden rules, and we want to consider communication style. With coworkers, it's important to think about overall workplace culture. Is the team more casual and informal in their approach, or are they quite formal? Definitely take that into consideration when you're putting your request together. Again, here I have 2 examples for you, one that is a bit more formal, the other more casual, for how you might approach asking a coworker for his or her time. Let's take a look at the formal example first. I've been working my way through the training material, but I'd appreciate your guidance on a few things. Would it be possible to discuss this at a time that's convenient for you this week? And example number 2, in a more casual tone, I've been working my way through the training material, but I'd love to get some pointers from you. Would you be free to discuss the training over a cup of coffee this week? And finally, our last scenario for today is how to make a cold request. In other words, how to ask for someone else's time when you don't know them. This might be a potential new client, for example. These situations are the toughest because we have no idea what their communication style might be. And it can be difficult to muster up the courage to ask for someone else's time when we've never met them before. As you prepare to make that request, you have a couple of options. First, you can do some research to see if you can identify this individual's communication style. Do you have any emails from them, or are there any blog posts or articles that they've written online? You can review that material to get a sense of how they communicate. If you can't find anything and you're not sure, it's always the best choice to be more professional and formal in your request. Here are a couple of examples following all the steps that we've talked about today. Here's the first example. I really enjoyed your presentation on eco-friendly landscapes in urban areas. I'm working on a new project with the same goals, and I'd really appreciate your insights. Would it be possible to schedule a brief meeting to discuss this at a time that's convenient for you? You may have noticed that example is quite formal. So now let's look at a semi-formal example. I loved reading your post on different ways to communicate at work, and I'd love to get your advice on how to deal with a difficult boss because it's a situation I'm in right now. Would you be available to give me some pointers over a cup of coffee this week? Or would you be available to meet briefly online this week? Let's pause here for a moment and reflect on those last two examples because there's something really important there. In these examples, I'm making a cold call or making a cold request. Again, I'm asking for someone's time, and this is an individual I don't have a pre-existing relationship with. So in my request, I'm starting by making a connection to their work. I'm acknowledging a presentation or a blog post that this person has written. In doing that, I'm creating a sense of familiarity. In addition to that, I was very careful with word choice here. Again, this is an individual I don't know, so I have no idea how busy he or she might be. Rather than asking for time to pick their brain, I'm asking for their guidance, their insights, their expertise. In doing that, I'm hoping that they will be more receptive to giving me a little bit of their time. Now that you have these 4 simple steps of how to prepare and choose the right words to ask for someone else's time, and you have a few scenarios that you can use as examples, it's time for you to practice. I have 2 questions for you. Number 1, if you had an aha moment, a moment of insight while watching this lesson, I would love to know, and you can tell me about it in the comments below. And now your opportunity to practice. Do you need to ask for someone else's time this week or maybe next week? Do you need to request time from your boss, a coworker, or a client? If you do, try putting those sentences together, get your request on paper, plan things out, share it with me here, and that will help you get ready to make that request when you need to do it. If you enjoyed this week's lesson, I would love to know, and you can tell me in one very simple way. Give this lesson a thumbs up here on YouTube, and while you're at it, subscribe to my channel so you never miss one of my Speak Confident English lessons. Thank you so much for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you next time.